Good morning, everybody. At least double check the time. Yes, it's still morning as the time of I'm recording this, but whenever you're watching it, good afternoon, good evening, whatever may apply. Thanks for popping in. A little bit of a Tuesday traffic chat. Sure, something like that. Wanted to take just a couple of minutes to kind of talk through a thought process. Maybe it would resonate with some folks, but I was thinking about some of the high stakes injuries in sports, and as of the day I'm recording this, it's Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023, and obviously with the Bills-Bengals game last night, there was a pretty serious on the field situation with Damar Hamlin, and I found myself as I was cleaning the dishes up from dinner last night and cleaning up the kitchen from dinner last night, and I was watching the game, and I'm not really sure I'm gonna forget the images of those players on the field and the people with the respective teams. The looks on their faces of just, I don't want to speak for them, but from where I'm sitting here in Way South Texas, trauma. That's, as someone who's been a part of those types of response situations with my work, and being a part of the team who needed to respond, and having that happen within your space, within your facility, within your, honestly, in the cases of the folks last night, within your line of sight, it's I don't want to downplay it, it's significant. Certainly kudos to the first responders and the individuals who were able to provide what seemed like care very quickly. Hopefully the care that hopefully saved his life, right? As of this morning, I read that he was still in very critical condition, but I think stable. But as I was laying down last night and I was kind of thinking about emergency situations, and without going into a whole lot of detail, what I do for a living within higher ed, revolves around the sport industry and people recreating and pushing themselves in a way that's significant, physical exertion. Obviously, that not a doctor, not that kind of doctor, anyways. But that's doesn't seem to be what happened last night. But maybe not a matter of if situations occur within our space, but I certainly tell my staff, but a matter of when situations will occur. We work in an area with just inherent elevated risk, and with that in mind, it's a matter of if, not if, but when things are going to occur. But I was thinking about that, and thinking about all the things that we do from a staff development and training perspective. And while we certainly do a lot, we have to, there's probably always a little bit more that we could do, and thinking about other ways that we might be able to provide some additional training and exposure to for when situations occur, like the freak situation that seemed to have occurred last night. And it saddens me, but I find it also to be very realistic that sometimes it takes serious situations that are very life and death for some people to be the tangible, the visual experience that people sometimes need for that extra boost of connecting the dot of, oh, that's serious, it happened here, that could happen there. Or freak accidents could happen at any point. People exercising, in your building and doing things and pushing themselves hard, and they could collapse, and just a lot of things just kind of run through your mind when you are an individual responsible for risk management within your profession. That was the case with me last night. But anyway, I was finding myself thinking about how we could continue to add some additional training to our training lineup for our staff, and spent the morning reworking some items within our online platform. We already do a fair amount of hands-on training, but again, it's probably never enough, because it's probably one of those things, like, it's a muscle, right? If you don't use it, you lose it, or you could lose it. And even with all the training one could take, sometimes situations of very intense fear or anxiety, or just, you could freeze and you could not remember what to do. But how do we take the necessary steps to try to continue to provide opportunity for ourselves and for our staff to be exposed to learning opportunities to try to help prevent or reduce the likelihood of not being able to respond appropriately, when these situations occur. I don't want to downplay the significance of what happened last night within that football game. Makes me really grateful for first responders there and everywhere. I don't mean any disrespect to the family by kind of like adding my own personal thoughts on the situation, but hopefully just allowing the space for people to acknowledge that trauma talks and crisis speaks, and it sometimes really genuinely takes a very serious situation for a dot to be connected with someone to say, that happened in this game because this happened, or this happened in that environment. We do the same thing, right, within my field of, or at least within my department, but within my field in general, of if we are reading about a student getting in trouble for bringing a weapon to school, and we're reading about that in the news, that is always an instinctual reaction for us to, hey, I know just last semester we re-upped these policies in terms of action plans for an armed intruder, but that was last semester and it's now the start of a new semester. That doesn't mean that we can't do it again. Just things that spark opportunity for enhancement of training. And I hope that young man is okay, and I honestly hope that others, kind of pause and reflect and are like, okay, wow, let's take some stock. Like, what can we? It sounds bad when you say use the situation. I don't mean it badly. I genuinely don't. It's just trauma talks, crisis speaks. Tangible and very visual experiences speak volumes and are the sometimes quintessential example of this can and does happen. And when it happens so publicly, it does feel a little bit voyeuristic for us to kind of watch that situation unfold. But if there's some good that can come out of it, other than hopefully this young man is okay, how do we prepare as, ourselves as risk managers for situations of kind of freak disaster or other elements that maybe are a little bit more planned out in terms of potential risk. I know I don't generally talk about my day job too much. The premise of the channel is to live life outside of the work that we do, and that's absolutely critical in terms of my mental health and work-life balance and all those things. But sometimes it's inevitable that I allow work life to creep into my thoughts while I'm at home in my personal life. In situations like this, though, I'm going to say it's for the better. I'm going to say it's for the better of the balance, that even when I allow those thoughts to encroach, it's because there's some things that are just super important, and we need to stop and be cognizant for a second and just allow some of those thoughts and those feelings to occur, so that we can kind of pave the way for hopefully improved and continuous improved action. And I think that's maybe the sentiment that I was thinking about most last night, as I was kind of like parsing through some thoughts and some other additional ideas, and how we could kind of take an example of this magnitude that's so visual and so out there, and hopefully paint it in a light of education and other things that we might be able to do in response to certain situations. I'm playing a little bit more with this setup. I want to do things that are obviously hands-free, a little safer, but I drive a lot. So sometimes a lot of thinking occurs in the car, and sometimes we just need to talk things out in order to process, right? Thanks for joining me today. And even though sometimes our thoughts creep in from work to home, sometimes that's okay. But in the grand scheme of things, let's remember to live life outside of the work that we do, so that when those thoughts from work do creep into our home, we're being a little bit better at practicing that balance.